Om Stapakaya च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. So last week we had a very nice celebration. So this week I am sure you are ready for some headaches. So I'll give you one today. As we know, we are studying the yoga philosophy, an introduction to that. So we've covered a lot of ground, the nature, constituents, functions of the mind, etc. Then we started the practical side. So the first steps we covered in one talk. Then we started the Ashtanga Yoga, that is the 8 limbs of yoga. So last time we had done Yam and Niyam, that is the observances and restraints. So after that, as you know, first is Yam Niyam, then comes Asana and Pranayama. Then comes Pratyahara Dharana. Last of all, Dhyan and Samadhi. So after Yam Niyam, Asana and Pranayama we have to discuss. But before, Asana is not a big deal, just a few things you have to say. Pranayama is a complex topic. Why? Because it has a philosophical side also. So before knowing what is pranayama, or before understanding what is pranayama, first of all we have to understand what is prana. That is the thing. So today we will discuss the philosophical aspect of prana, looking at it from a philosophical viewpoint. So pranayama is control of prana. Reduce the sound.
Otherwise it goes into the fan. It's not easy.
No, that is because of the thermostat. Don't touch it. So before knowing the pranayama, you have to understand what is prana, because pranayama is nothing but control of prana. So generally we all understand by pranayama some breathing exercises and all. But breathing is only one of the many exercises through which we get to the real pranayama. What is the real pranayama? Pranayama is the control of prana, as we have said. Now, this idea of prana will be easier to understand because we have studied Sankhya. So we have an idea of what Sankhya is, Prakriti and Purusa. So just a few words, because then it will be easier to understand what Swami Vivekananda says about prana and Akasha, because it is very similar to the Sankhya concept. So Sankhya, what does it say? According to Sankhya, there are two ultimate realities. One is Purusa, the conscious principle, and the other is Prakriti. Prakriti is the active principle. Prakriti is unconscious, but it is active. So the whole of the universe, everything which consists, all kinds of matter, are Prakriti. While Purusa is actionless, conscious principle. Now, Sankhya has a big difficulty in explaining how creation actually takes place. Because according to it, Prakriti is inert. Prakriti cannot act. And Purusa, although it is, Prakriti is not inert, Prakriti is active. But it is Jada, that is unconscious. So unconscious principle cannot be active of itself. And Purusa is conscious, but it is actionless. So if Purusa is actionless and Prakriti is inert, then how does Prakriti begin to work? So there is no real explanation in Sankhya. It just says that just the mere presence of Purusa is enough for Prakriti to evolve. But it is difficult to understand how the mere presence of something can make something else active. So here when we study Swami Vivekananda's concept of Akasha and Prana, this problem gets resolved. So actually it can be said to be Swami Vivekananda's unique contribution, because the way he has explained Prana is to be found, as far as I know, is to be found nowhere. So what does he say? He says that the whole universe, according to Indian philosophers, is composed of two materials. The first is Akasha. What is Akasha? Omnipresent, all-penetrating existence. Everything that has formed, everything that is the result of combination, is evolved out of Akasha. So Akasha takes the place of Prakriti. Prakriti, in Sankhya, everything, the whole universe is nothing but the evolution of Prakriti. So here also, Akasha is similar to Prakriti. It is Akasha that becomes the air, that becomes the liquids, that becomes the solids. It is Akasha that becomes the sun, the earth, the moon, the stars, the comets. It is Akasha that becomes the human body, the animal body, the plants. Every form we see and everything that can be sensed by our organs, everything that exists is Akasha. It evolves from Akasha. That is the thing. Like in Sankhya, everything evolves from Prakriti. And Akasha cannot be perceived. It is so subtle that it is beyond all ordinary perception. It can only be seen when it has become gross, when it has evolved into this gross matter. So, at the beginning of creation, there is only this Akasha. And at the end of the cycle, everything, the solids, the liquids, gases, they all melt into Akasha again. And then after that, the next creation similarly proceeds from this Akasha. Just like in Sankhya, Prakriti evolves, everything goes back to the unmanifest state or Avyakta state, then the next cycle again Prakriti evolves. So Akasha is similar to Prakriti. Now, by what power is this Akasha manufactured into this universe? Like Sankhya, we ask, by what power does Prakriti evolve? There is no clear answer. But here Swami Vivekananda says that Akasha evolves into the universe by the power of Prana. Just as Akasha is the infinite omnipresent material of this universe, so is this Prana the infinite omnipresent manifesting power of the universe. It is the power of power which acts upon Akasha so that Akasha can evolve. This is the thing. So, at the beginning of each cycle, everything becomes Akasha, and all the forces that are in the universe resolve back into Prana. That is the thing. So, there are two realities. One is Akasha, the material, and second is the force which acts upon this material so that the universe can evolve. So what happens at the end of creation, at the end of each cycle? All the matter resolves back into Akasha, and all the force resolves back into Prana. And out of next cycle, out of this Prana is evolved everything we call energy, everything we call force. So prana is the fundamental force, power, out of which all the forces evolve. Any kind of motion, any kind of activity denotes prana is behind it. So it is prana that is manifesting as actions of the body, as the nerve currents, as thought force. From thought down to the lowest force, everything is but the manifestation of prana. The sum total of all the forces in the universe, mental or physical, when resolved back to their original state, is called prana. So that is the seed force, you can say, which evolves into any and every kind of force in the universe. So it is said in the beginning of creation, what was there? When darkness was covered by darkness, that is a famous sukta in the Vedas. That when there was aught nor not, when darkness was covered by darkness, what was there? Then Akasha was there. But it was without motion. Prana was also there, but there was no motion in prana. So Akasha was in its evolved state. It was in its pristine state without evolution, and prana was also in its potential form without any motion at all. But both of them existed all the same. Because if they did not exist, then from where did they come? Indian philosophy does not admit something can come out of nothing. So they all existed, but they were in their potential form. That is the thing. So at the end of the cycle, all the energies which are now displayed in the universe quiet down and become potential. And as we all know, modern physics has demonstrated that the sum total of all the energy in this universe is same. Energy cannot be created nor destroyed. It can just be transferred from one form to the other. Kinetic to potential, potential to kinetic. And physics also says this, that energy exists in two forms. It becomes potential, calm, and next it comes out manifested in all these various forces which we see in the universe. Then again it goes back, again it manifests. Thus it goes on evolving and involving through eternity. This eternal cycle goes on and on, there is no end to it. So this prana, source of all the energy, all the forces in the universe, is to be controlled. And this control is called Pranayama. That is the thing. At the beginning of each cycle, this prana strikes upon Akasha, and out of Akasha evolves these various forms, infinite forms. So the knowledge and control of this prana is what is called Pranayama. So now Indian philosophers, there is a tendency that they always go to the last, they try to find the last generalization of everything. So Rishi Munis had asked this question, it is in the Upanishad, that what is there knowing which one knows everything? That was their aim, to know everything, to be all knowing. So naturally it stands to reason that if we start gaining the knowledge of each and every little thing in the universe, We will die before maybe we finish one building also. What is there in one building? So that way we cannot know everything. So what is the way out? So Indian philosophers said that all the whole universe is actually evolved out of one substance. Here Swamiji calls Akasha. Like from clay, we manufacture different things. Manufacture a mouse, we manufacture a lion, we manufacture some other object. Now, these forms can be infinite. We cannot know all of them. But if we know the clay, then we know the essence. Then we know everything in one sense, because we know the essence behind everything. This was the goal of the Indian philosophers. To know the essence, to go to the last possible generalization. After that, the details can be infinite, there is no problem. So, as I said, the question was raised in the Vedas, what is that? Knowing which we shall know everything. That is the question. Thus, all books and all philosophies that have been written have been only to prove that by knowing which everything is known. Because if we want to know the universe bit by bit, we have to know every individual grain of sand. We can't even know each grain of rice which is kept in our kitchen. It is impossible. So how is it possible for a man to be all-knowing through particulars? It cannot be. So the philosophers say that behind this particular manifestation, there is a generalization. Behind all particular ideas stands a generalized abstract principle. Grasp that principle and you grasp everything. So just as the whole universe has been generalized in the Vedas into that one absolute existence, and he who has grasped that existence has grasped the whole universe. Similarly, all the forces have been generalized into this prana. This is the thing. So if from clay everything is made, we know the clay, we know everything, all the matter. Similarly, if we know prana, then we know all the forces. Because that is the last generalization of all kinds of forces. So he who has grasped this prana has grasped all the forces of the universe, mental or physical. This is what Swami Vivekananda said. So it's a wonderful explanation of what prana actually is. So when we know that, when we say that when someone has died, what has happened? Pran nikal gaya, the prana goes out. So what is that prana? That prana is the energy in us. That prana makes us think, makes us act. Without that we can't do anything. This is the individual prana. Now, pranayama is control of prana, that is okay. What will we achieve by this control? That comes the next question. Why should we go into all that trouble, and achieve the control of this source of all energy? So this Swami Vivekananda explains now. So first he says, prana is the vital force in every being. That is why when prana goes out of the body, we all die. And prana manifests at various levels. Like when I raise my hand, prana is manifesting. When I speak, prana is manifesting. So there is a lower and higher manifestation of prana. Like in a bulb. The bulb may be 10 watts, 15 watts, 20 watts. So the depends upon the filament or whatever the new technology is, LCD or whatever it is. It depends upon that how much current will be manifested. Behind there is current. So similarly here also, how much prana is manifesting at what level? It is manifesting at different levels. At a lower level as well as a higher level. So what is the highest level at which prana is manifesting in our bodies? What is that? That is thought. That is the highest manifestation of prana. And because it is the subtlest and highest manifestation, the control is also most difficult. We can control our hand. This is also an action of prana. But it is a gross manifestation, lower level. But thought is the finest and highest action of prana. So thought also we know exists at various levels. We have seen it exists at various levels. First is the conscious level. I reason, I judge, I think. That is all conscious level. But that is not all. Beyond this, below this is the unconscious level. That is the instinct. That is the lowest plane of action. For example, if we touch something hot without knowing, it is instinct, which immediately we withdraw our hand. But that is the lowest plane of action. All reflex actions of the body belong to this plane of thought. Mind. All the reflex actions actually are, their source is in the subconscious mind. And of course, the highest is the superconscious level of the mind. That is the thing. So when that mind has attained to that state, it is called perfect concentration or samadhi. So what does pranayama do? Control of prana, what does it do for us? So Swami Vivekananda explains wonderfully that when we are trying to control prana, what are we doing actually? We are manipulating the subtle forces in our body. It does not take much to manipulate the gross forces. I can work with my hands, I can go and eat something, I can walk, I can run. But it is very difficult to manipulate the subtle forces. So, all manipulations of the subtle forces of the body, if they are aimed higher, because all these subtle forces of the body are only different manifestations of prana. You have to remember that. So, when these manipulations, when they are made in a trained way, not haphazard, when they are made in a trained way and for a higher purpose, what do? They give a push to the mind. Through that training, the mind goes higher and ultimately it reaches the superconscious level. So that is what pranayama does. When we gain control of the prana, we gain control of the mind also, and we can enable it to rise above the lower levels and go into the superconscious level where alone God vision is possible. That is the aim. This is the thing, this is about the aim of pranayama. Now another very important fact Swami Vivekananda points out to us, which may be corroborated by our modern physics also. What is that? He says that there are various planes of existence. Although we may not have thought over it, but just a little thinking will tell us. First is the physical level of existence, then is the mental level of existence, and of course after that comes the superconscious stage. So Swami Vivekananda says that on every plane of existence, in the universe, there is one continuous substance. This is a very interesting thing. At every plane, even the physical plane, there is one continuous substance. There is no gap. The substance may exist on different levels, but it is there. And even on a mental plane, there is one continuous substance. So he explains this. He says, first on the physical plane, he says, physically, this universe is one. There is no difference between the sun and you. The scientists will tell you it is only a fiction to say the contrary. There is no difference between the table and me. It is all one mass of matter. One end is this table, the other end is my body. So they are just 2 points in infinite matter. So he gives a wonderful example. He says that what is form? All these forms of matter we see. He says, imagine an ocean, water, ocean of water. No end, infinite. Wherever you see water, water, water. All one continuous mass. And then imagine in that water there are various whirlpools. So the whirlpools are not different from water, nor are they separated from one another, because they are all in that water. So what separates one whirlpool from another? Just the form. Nothing else is different. It is all matter. And actually there is no separation because it is one continuous mass of matter. So here also we think we are separated by this table, but there is no separation. This is one whirlpool, my body is another whirlpool, and in between there are also whirlpools, but they cannot be sensed in the way we sense the table because they are on a subtle level. We all know that when there is sunlight and when it falls in the room, we see in the particles so many things in the air. So it is there, but it is on a subtler form, much more subtle than this table. But it is there. So he says, just as in a rushing stream is a huge mass of water, there is nothing else. So just as in a rushing stream there may be millions of whirlpools, the water in each of which is different every moment because it is always in motion. Whirlpool is always in motion, there is no rest. Similarly, this whole mass of matter is always in motion. Not even for one infinite moment of time can it remain at rest. No, there is no rest. So just as in a rushing stream there may be millions of whirlpools, the water in each of which is different every moment, turning round and round for a few seconds and then passing out, replaced by a fresh whirlpool. So the whole universe is one constantly changing mass of matter. This is one whirlpool. It will be there maybe 15, 20 years, then it will go back into that water. The body is another whirlpool. It will be there for some time, then it will be buried or burnt or whatever it is. So it will go into that water again, then another whirlpool will be manufactured from that. So a mass of matter enters into one whirlpool, say a human body, stays there for a period, becomes changed. Here also it is constantly changing and goes out into another, say an animal body this time. Maybe the body which is the matter which is manufacturing our bodies, maybe sometime it will manufacture some animal body, we don't know. So whirlpool comes remains for some time, always in motion, then again enters into that ocean. So it is a constant change. So this universe can be imagined as an infinite mass of matter, which is called Akasha, which is constantly changing. Nothing in the universe is constant. And we are searching for eternity here. This is the problem. So, not even a particle of this is constant. Of the one huge mass of matter, one point is called the moon, another the sun, another a man, another the earth, another a plant, another some galaxy or something, another some mineral. Not even one is constant, but everything is changing. Matter eternally becoming concrete and again disintegrating. Similarly with the mind. There is no difference. It is just on another level. So how does Swami Vivekananda explain this beautiful way? He says, imagine matter represented by ether. You know, ether in philosophical terms, what it is? Ether is a very rarefied and highly elastic substance which permeates all space. So just like Akasha, you can imagine Akasha as represented by this ether. Okay, now this ether is in various states. What are these states determined by? Whether ether will be in a gross state or in a fine state. What is it determined by? It is determined by the action of prana on that ether. When the action of prana is most subtle, that ether will be in a very fine state of vibration. And when the action of prana is in a gross form, then that thing will be on a gross level. So action of prana on the materials from which our body is made, the action of prana is in a gross level. It is that vibrating on a lower level. So we can see the body, we can touch it, feel it. But as thought, prana is vibrating on a very high level. So we cannot see thought. Although thought is there, but it is on a very rarefied level. Why? Because prana, which is acting upon that, is in a very fine state of vibration. That is the thing. So if we can get to the subtle vibration, if we can raise ourselves to the subtle vibration, the whole universe will change for us. Then we will see only subtle things. It is just like a building is made up of many stories. One first floor, second floor, third floor. So, you know, in what happens? In aeroplane, just to give a simple example. So first there is the economy class for poor people like me. Then there is the maybe premium economy or something like that. Then what you people go into that, what is called? Business class. So they are all on a different level, and that level of vibration is determined by what is there in your wallet. So if you are in economy class, you are not allowed to go to the deluxe class because you are in a lower state of vibration. So that is what is there for you. So here also, when our mind is in a lower state of vibration, we can say that it can only go to the first floor, so to say. Then when we ascend higher, when the prana starts vibrating on a rarefied scale, very high vibration, then we go into another level. So these levels are denoted by our various states of consciousness. And that is what spiritual progress is all about. This we have to understand. So you have all heard of the coiled power, what is called the Kundalini Shakti and all. So you can see the diagram, there are various levels. So what are those various levels? Those are, there is no ladder or something in the body. It is just the mind which is ascending higher and higher and higher, which is aware, which has become purified. When it becomes purified, it ascends on a different level. Then it sees a different reality. When it goes further, it sees something even more wonderful. That is what is spiritual evolution. And on a very lower level, sometimes this, this going on a higher level, that not very high of course, but just going from the world of matter to the world of ideas, sometimes it can also happen with the help of some drugs. So Swami Vivekananda gives an example. It doesn't stay long, it will stay only as long as the drug will be effective. So he says that we all know the celebrated experiment of Sir Humphrey Davy. He was working on the laughing gas. So when laughing gas overpowered him, he remained motionless, stupefied. Then when he came back to normal consciousness, he said that he had gone into a world which was made up only of ideas. There was no gross substance there. So what had happened? What had happened was his prana was then vibrating on a high frequency, so to say. And his mind also had gone higher. So he could only see that for some time. So for some time, the gross vibrations of prana had ceased, and only the subtle vibrations, which are the ideas, which are thought, were present to him. He could only see subtle vibrations around him. Everything had become thought. So the whole universe to him had then become an ocean of thought. Then when he came to the normal level, it again became an ocean of matter as we see it. So what Swamiji wants to say is here that there is unity in every form. As matter, there is unity. As thought, there is also unity. That is why one person's thought can act upon another. If there was no unity, how could it act? There is no wire which is connecting us. What is hypnotism? Hypnotism is one person through the power, some power, he gains control over the minds of others. How does he do that? If the minds are completely separate? So actually they are not separate. They are connected. So even in the world of ideas, there is unity. And of course, beyond everything, beyond Akasha, beyond Prana, there is the ultimate unity. The ultimate unity, that one ultimate reality which Vedanta calls Brahman. So now how to control prana is the one idea of pranayama, as we have said. So now Swamiji goes, he explains that how this is to be begun, how can we begin this process. We'll go into the actual exercise later, like when we are having a retreat, we can, Swamiji has mentioned some exercises, we can just see what are they. But here he just mentions that how should this control be begun. So first he says that pranayama is the control of prana. All the trainings and exercises in this regard, all the trainings and exercises which you do in pranayama is for that one purpose, controlling of pranayama. And each man must begin where he stands. So, when we say that overnight we will control the subtle vibrations of prana, we cannot do that. We are not even aware of that. How can we do? So that is why, we have also discussed in this class, Advaita, people start screaming and, we have to start from where we stand. At present, we can not even have a faintest idea of that state. It is like standing below on the foothills and seeing the Mount Everest and giving lectures on that. It is no use. So we have to begin from where we stand. Swamiji says, first we have to learn to control the things that are nearest to us. Then only we can go outside. First a man has to put his household, he has to put the household in order. Then he can go thinking of controlling the city or the country or something like that. So here also it is the same thing. So what is nearest to us? This body. The body is nearest to us, nearer than anything else in the external universe. And even in this body, the mind is still nearer to us. Our thoughts are what we are actually. So, the prana, as we have seen, that no movement, no energy is possible without prana. So, prana is also working our bodies. Prana is behind our thought. Now, the prana which is working this mind and body is therefore nearest to us. And the little wave of prana which represents our own energies, mental and physical, is the nearest to us therefore of all the waves of the infinite ocean of prana. This manifestation of prana is nearest to us. And Swamiji says here, he goes into another, he diverges a little. He says that all the sects in the country who are the healers, mind healers, faith healers, spiritualists, hypnotists, etc., what do? They have attempted this control of prana, whether they know it or not. It is one and the same force they are manipulating, only unknowingly. That is the thing. So of course, he goes into a little detail. If you have time, we will discuss that, otherwise not. So now the thing is, the most obvious manifestation of this prana in the human body is the motion of the lungs. Is the most obvious manifestation. If that stops, if the lungs stop, we know what will happen. Hari Om Ram Krishna, as they say. So, if that manifestation of prana stops, as a rule, all the other manifestations of force in the body will immediately stop. Lungs stop, heart stop, blood circulation stop, everything stop. So, we have already seen, if we want to reach the subtle thing, we have to take help of the gross thing first. Without that, we cannot go further. We have to take hold of what we see, what we feel. So, to reach the subtle, we must take the help of the grosser one and so slowly travel towards the most subtle until we gain our goal. So, what does pranayama really mean in this context? Pranayama means here controlling the motion of the lungs. And this motion is associated with the breath. So again, let us try to understand. Breath is the breathing, the motion of the lungs. That is the manifestation of prana which is closest to us. So we have to start by trying to control that motion if we want to achieve pranayama. So that's why Swamiji says that pranayama really means controlling this motion of the lungs. So breath is not producing this motion. This motion is producing breath. Because the lungs are moving, we are breathing. So this motion has to be controlled, because this motion, as we know, draws in the air by a pump action, like we breathe. So sort of pump is functioning. Then air enters the prana. Prana then moves the lungs. The movement of the lungs draws in air. So pranayama is not breathing, but controlling the muscular power which moves the lungs. This we should remember. So we have to start from there, because breathing is the manifestation of prana which is closest to us. The muscular power which goes out through the nerves to the muscles, from there to the lungs, making them move in a certain manner, is the prana, that power. And that we have to control in the practice of pranayama. So when the prana has become controlled, then we will find immediately that all the other actions of the prana in the body will slowly also come under control. Now everything is automatic. We have no control. We are digesting food, we have no control. It is being digested of itself. It is we are doing, nobody else is coming and digesting my food. But it is beyond my control. Because the force which is doing that is not under my control. That is the thing. So Swamiji says this can be reversed. The motion which has become automatic can also be brought under control. He says, by hard work and practice, certain motions of the body which are most dormant can be brought back under perfect control. Because it stands to reason. If everything is a manifestation of prana, then control the prana and you control each and every manifestation. It stands to reason. So every probability is there that each part of the body can be brought under perfect control. And this the yogi does through pranayama. So then he says, all the sickness and misery felt in the body will be perfectly controlled. Not only so, you will also be able to control another's body. This yogis can do. So when a person has suggested to Sri Ramakrishna that you can easily cure your cancer, he was not telling anything out of the ordinary. And Sri Ramakrishna did not deny that he could cure himself. He just said, my mind has been given to God. What will I gain by curing this cancer? Turyananji himself had said, but Turyananji was very ill in his later days, diabetes, etc. Swami Turyananda was a disciple of Sri Ramakrishna. He says that if I want, I can make my body healthy again. But what is the use? One day it has to die. And I know that I am not the body. So why spend energy fruitlessly? And here Swamiji says that these persons can also control the bodies of another. So this is, here also there is a true incident. Once what happened, Nagmasha, you know, Swami Vivekananda said, I have travelled over the whole world. I have not seen a greater person than Nagmasha. So we can just imagine what he was. So Sri Ramakrishna was suffering from cancer in Dakshineshwar. Nagmasha came to see him. Sri Ramakrishna said, he used to say to people, simple like a child, oh, I am having so much pain, can you cure me? So Nagmasha was there. So immediately Nagmasha got excited. He said, yes, by your grace I can cure you. And then he advanced towards Sri Ramakrishna. Sri Ramakrishna immediately stopped him. Yes, he said, I know you can cure me. Yes, he did not allow him to cure. This can be done. This is the ultimate stage of the control of prana. And on the gross level, we can find that if someone is strong and healthy, those who live near them, they also generally become strong and healthy. And if you go and live with some sick people who are always sick, then within few days we also fall sick. That is the thing. So Swamiji says a very strong man living with a weak man will make him a little stronger, whether he knows it or not. But this can be done consciously also, then it will become quicker and better. If that healthy man has more control over his prana, he can heal another person much more quickly. So Swamiji says, because he has control, he can rouse for the time being his prana to a certain state of vibration. He can make it vibrate on a higher level and then transmit that to another person. That is it. So Swamiji says that we have heard of cases where these can be done even if a distance separates two persons. So Swamiji says that is perfectly logical, because it is all one ocean of matter. Actually, there is nothing which separates us. So if a man has that power, he has that control, then even a person at a certain distance to him is just like as if he was in contact with that person, because there is, in reality, there is no distance in terms of a break. There is an ocean of matter, but there is no break in the matter. So if one can, just like one can travel through space, one can travel through that matter also. So he says, is there any break between you and the sun? He says, no. It is a continuous mass of matter. The sun being one part and you another. Is there a break between one part of a river and another? A huge river is there. Is there any break between where it comes and source and where it goes into the ocean? It is one matter, one all water. So similarly in the universe. So Swami Vivekananda says cases of healing from a distance are perfectly true, because the prana can be transmitted to a very great distance. But again he says, as we all know, to one genuine case there are thousands of frauds. That is in every department. So no problem. So there were some more things to be discussed, but there is not much time. So here we will go to the most important point now, that what do spiritual persons do actually? When they rouse the consciousness, Sri Ramakrishna used to touch anybody and he used to rouse the spiritual consciousness. So what exactly is happening here? So Swami Vivekananda explains. See this. His every sentence, no words wasted, and each talk you can it is so much is there. So he now explains this. What actually is happening here? He says the gigantic will powers of the world movers, what are they doing? They can bring their prana into a high state of vibration just by will. When Sri Ramakrishna is going into bhava or samadhi, he is simply going like there is nothing. Why? What is he doing? He is ascending to the higher states of consciousness by bringing his prana into a very high state of vibration. So then it becomes so great and powerful in that state of vibration that it catches others in a moment. We can just compare to a radio signal, something like that. Or of course radio is no longer there, some Wi-Fi signal. Yeah, we have to talk in terms of today. So if you take from some cheap ISP, maybe the signal won't be strong. So if you go upstairs, you will find no connection. So you say, oh, what have you given me? Give me something stronger. So he gives you a greater, stronger, they measure in terms of something, whatever it is. So here also the same thing is happening. They are bringing their prana into a high state of vibration, which is then so great and powerful that it can even affect others. And thousands are drawn towards them. That by magnetic power of that prana, that is called spiritual power. So great prophets of the world, he says, had the most wonderful control of prana, which gave them tremendous willpower. What is willpower? But directing this prana to the things we want, directing this energy. So because they had that tremendous willpower, which is gained by years and maybe births of discipline and austerity. Otherwise, how can you gain that control? That tremendous willpower, because of that, they could bring their prana to the highest state of motion, highest state of vibration. And that is what gave them power to move the world. When Swami Vivekananda came, what did Sri Ramakrishna say? He will shake the world to its foundations. So he says this is the explanation, although we don't know the secret. And also he says in the healing also it's the same process. He says in our own body, sometimes the supply of prana is more in some places, less in some places. The balance is disturbed. And when the balance is disturbed, what is called disease is produced. So yogis heal themselves how? They just supply the prana to where it is deficient. That's all. To take away the superfluous prana or to supply the prana that is wanting will actually cure the disease. That also is pranayama, because that is also control of prana. To learn when there is more or less prana in one part of the body than there should be. That is the thing. So now coming to the main point, all these are various functions of pranayama, what we have discussed now. So what is the main point? The whole scope of yoga, Raj Yoga, is really to teach the control and direction of prana in all its different levels. When a man has concentrated all his energies, then he masters the prana that is in his body. All the energies which is going out, which is being frittered away, going out in the world, doing this, doing that. All these energies has to be concentrated. That is why the spiritual life, they say first of all renunciation. What is renunciation? It is gathering the prana from where it is being wasted and channelizing it. What do they do in these turbines or these thermal powers? What are they doing? Same water they are taking and harnessing the power which is in that water by concentrating it in one place. Here also the same thing. So when a man has concentrated all his energy, then only he can master the prana that is in his own body. And one of the means of concentrating our energies is doing spiritual practices. Prayer, japa, meditation, all these things, what do they do? Mind wants to go out. We say, no, come back under my control. I have to control the forces which are in my own body. Then only I can control the prana. Then only I can direct it wherever I like. If a man is riding a horse, he has no control of the horse. It will lead him into a ditch or something, he will break his hand and leg or something. So the mind, when it is uncontrolled, it can do all sorts of mischief, lead us to all sorts of wrong places. So this is what pranayama is. And through yoga, what do? Through yoga, we just accelerate this process. That is the thing. This process of achieving perfection is accelerated. So Swami Vivekananda says the ideal of the yogi, the ideal of the whole science of yoga is directed to the end of teaching human beings how, by intensifying the power of assimilation, the power of concentration, to shorten the time for reaching perfection. Otherwise, perfection may take hundreds, thousands, millions of years also. So what do the yogis do? All the great saints, prophets, seers of the world, what do they do? In one span of life, they perfect themselves. Why? Because they have no thought for anything else. Their prana is not wasted on anything else. They never live a moment for any other idea. And thus, the way is shortened for them. So it is a simple thing. Suppose you are going from here to Calcutta or India, whatever. So you take a flight which is hopping at 5 places. From here it will go to Toronto, then Toronto to Frankfurt, Frankfurt to Dubai, Dubai to somewhere else. So what will happen? If you travel half around the world before going to India, then you will only waste time. So we need a one-way flight. Just sit and get down. So here it is something similar. Gather all our energies in one direction so that we can attain the goal of life as soon as possible. So Swami Vivekananda says, this is what is meant by concentration. Intensifying the power of assimilation and thus shortening the time. And Raj Yog means any yog, is the science which teaches us how to gain the power of concentration and thus get control of our prana or our energies. And once we have control of that, we can utilize it in any way we like and attain perfection, attain the samam gunam of life as early as possible. So many other things are also here, but of course we don't have the time. So next time we will today we have discussed the philosophical concept of prana. Next time we will discuss pranayama. So maybe we can discuss some of things here also and see some practical guides which Swami Vivekananda gives us. So let us stop here today. I think you have had enough for one day. I have some Tylenol, so anybody who's getting headache can take one. So we are all becoming slowly trained. This means. Yeah. So let us stop here for today at least. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Tat Sat Shri Ram Krishna Arpanam